Hello, my name is Kristina. I am a doctoral student in the University of Natural Resources and Life Sciences in Vienna. Today I would like to present about pigs' memory, namely if pigs can remember a cognitive task after 6 weeks. So what do we know about pigs' memory already? Well, firstly, we know that pigs have a well-developed spatial memory. They remember the location and value of already foraged places. And additionally, pigs seem to remember objects for 5 days, indicating that they have a long-term memory. What about longer periods of time? For example, can pigs remember tasks for longer time, up to months? This question is relevant if we want to conduct long-term studies with pigs. For example, if we want to train younger animals who will then undergo a treatment manipulation and then retest the same animals when they are older. Additionally, many pigs in farms are older. Fattening pigs live up to many months and sows for many years. It may be relevant for their welfare if we know how do these animals remember events. So here I would now like to explain the cognitive task that I taught the pigs. So initially the pigs had to learn to discriminate between 2 tones, between a tone with a duration of 1 second and 8 seconds. So here on this video still you see my test arena. Importantly, one piglet is inside the test arena. She will then initiate a trial, and after that a tone is played, and she will have to learn to go either to the left side or to the right side on this black wall. I will just show you now the video clip of how this is happening. And caution, the tone sound is quite loud. So we saw her initiating, she is now deciding, and she goes to the right, and for her this is a correct side. She now needs to initiate a new trial. Touch the button. She did, and this was a short tone, and she had learned to go to the left, which was a correct location pairing for her. So in total, pigs had 40 of such trials in one session. 20 trials were short and 20 were long tones. They were always food rewarded. We used chocolate M&Ms. To be sure that the pigs had learned the task, they had to be more than 80% correct on both tone durations. The initial study where the pigs had to learn this task was looking into pigs' time perception. So there our sample size was 28 and 26 pigs learned successfully this discrimination and were then tested on their time perception. On average, it took them 20 sessions to learn it. However, in this presentation today, I would like to focus on a subsample of this experiment and on a question if the pigs remember this task that they learned as younger piglets when they were older. So as I mentioned, we initially trained 26 pigs. They finished training when they were about 2 months old. Then there was 6 weeks without training, and when the pigs were around 3.5 months old, we retested them on this cognitive task. Importantly, here you see that the sample size is 7. It's smaller because the research farm where we conducted the study specializes in piglet production, and therefore it was feasible to keep only 7 of the pigs for fattening time. So what were the pigs doing when they were not being trained during the 6 weeks? So as you can see on this photo, we have 7 pigs, and they were housed in a standard fattening pig pens. of course, with reduced talk intensity and more human-animal interactions daily. We kept 4 females and 3 male pigs, and 3 of them were early learners. It means that they learned the initial task on average within 10 sessions. 2 were middle learners and 2 were late learners. So now to the results. So how did the pigs perform after being retested after 6 weeks? So on this graph, I would firstly like to explain the y-axis shows the proportion of correct choices. So going from 0 to 1, the learning criterion is at 80% here. And the x-axis shows the session number. So starting with the first retesting up to 9. And these dots in here show the pigs session and how they performed. So we see that these animals marked also with these stars were the ones who reached the 80% criterion, and this indicates that they remembered the task. So we see the 3 pigs reached the criterion already on the first session. 1 pig even did almost 100% correct of all the 40 trials. And just to emphasize again, this is after 6 weeks of being not training. So in total, 5 out of 7 pigs performed to criterion between 1 and 3 sessions. If we look how many of them were early learners or middle or late learners, or if they were females or males, then it seems that initial learning rate or sex did not seem to influence whether the pigs remembered the task. However, of course, we do see that this is a small sample size, so it should be replicated with a more powered study to make stronger claims. Importantly, another thing that we see on this graph is that the engagement with the task, so how many trials the pigs initiated, went down. And this is something that I noticed with actually almost all of the pigs, also with the ones who reached the criterion, that when they were repeatedly tested on different days, on some sessions, they really were not motivated to perform. And here you even see 1 pig initiating almost no trials. So what happened when the pigs were not motivated or engaged? So here we see some video stills of what the pigs were doing when not participating in the task. So here 1 pig is lying. The same pig is lying in a more relaxed position, sitting, looking into the camera, sitting, sniffing the air, manipulating different parts of the test arena. Here now you see another view of the test arena, so your back is towards the black wall. This pig is biting the water trough. Sometimes they also did initiate trials with a very strong force. 1 pig managed to break open the test arena door, so normally this wooden door would be here closed. However, she had a special technique to push open the screws. Pigs also received social contact. So when I noticed that the pig was not motivated for many minutes, then I would go in the test arena, give some vocal encouragements or some scratches to hope that the pig will continue the session. And importantly, you can also see that the pigs had nose-to-nose contact with the pen mates from a conspecific pen. What I would recommend to keep the older pigs motivated would be firstly to increase food rewards. So the pigs who were retested received 2 M&M candies for each correct choice. Additionally, important finding was that pigs may be more motivated if they get non-food rewards, for example, snout scratches. in addition to the food reward. And also I would recommend to lower the temperature of the test arena. Other general recommendations I would have is to start with a larger sample size, have more time for testing, as some animals may be need to be repeatedly tested. And if possible, then to make the task shorter and perhaps also more interesting. So in a way to level up the task, but of course not make it too complex so that the animals would not get frustrated. So in conclusion, most pigs remembered the task, indicating that they remembered it, and therefore pigs indeed can be used for long-term studies. However, of course, in this study, the sample size was small and it should be replicated with a more powered and study with a larger sample size to be more certain in these claims. What are the implications of such study? Firstly, again, we know that pigs can be used for long-term studies. Secondly, I think this is important for public perception of pigs. So how intelligent does a general society think the pigs to be? And I think this is important because it can benefit animal welfare if stakeholders such as policymakers or marketing specialists or consumers know better about these animals and their capabilities. Third point that I don't have time today to explain in more depth right now, I'm wondering if the fact that the pigs remember the task also refers that the pigs have a conceptual memory. And fourthly, a more applied point is of course about pig enrichments. If the pigs were able to remember such task, it is very likely also that they remember their toys, and therefore this should be considered in pig enrichment cycles. So with this, I would like to thank you for your attention, thank my university and VetMed in Vienna for providing access to the pigs. And also I would like to thank my supervisors for all the help during the study, and of course the wonderful pigs that I had the chance to test. If you have any recommendations how to keep older pigs motivated or any other things, feel free to contact me. And if there is any time left, I'm more than happy to take any questions.